Hi, this is Michael Buckoff from BetterTOEFLScores.com. I want to talk about thesis statements, particularly the characteristics of an effective thesis statement. Keep in mind, I'm an English professor for California State University, San Bernardino. Also, I'm an ESL instructor for the same university teaching for the College of Extended Learning. And I've been teaching writing for both departments since 1994, so I've had an opportunity to see thousands of thesis statements. And this is the one thing that many of my students struggle with, but once they learn a few simple things, their writing increases dramatically. So what are the characteristics of effective thesis statements? First of all, we're going to read 10 thesis statements, and we're going to discuss which of these two thesis statements is the better thesis statement. Now here's the directions. It says click on the sentence that will work better as a thesis statement for a 2 to 5 page college paper. Remember that a thesis should have a central idea that requires supporting evidence. It should be of adequate scope for a 2 to 5 page paper, and it should be sharply focused. Now remember, for you guys, this is talking about a 2 to 5 page college paper. Now for the TOEFL IBT independent writing, you have to be even more sharply focused because your paper or essay is actually shorter than this. So generally, when you have very short writing assignments like the TOEFL independent writing task, you need to be very focused in the thesis statement. That way the rest of the paper is focused, and then you can support those specific ideas with some supporting detail. This is very important. Okay, here we go. A recent trend in law enforcement known as community policing shows much promise in deterring criminal activity. The second thesis statement, community policing is a recent trend in law enforcement used in many municipalities across the country. So which do you think is better? Now, if you picked the bottom one, this is not good. As it says here, the thesis statement simply reports a fact. Although a thesis can include factual information, it must make an assertion that can be supported. So the problem with that second thesis statement is there's nothing really to defend in the paper, and the writer is very likely to have a very unfocused paper without any argument at all. Now the first one, a recent trend in law enforcement known as community policing shows much promise in deterring criminal activity. Because of the word promise and the word deterring criminal activity, deterring is kind of like eliminating, it actually does have an argument here. So it's important to build your thesis on an argument and not simply on a fact. Number 2, because air pollution is a serious concern to people in the world today, many countries have implemented a variety of plans to begin solving the problem. How's that sound? The next one. So far, research suggests that zero emissions vehicles are not a sensible solution to the problem of steadily rising air pollution. Now let's take a look at this one. Which one did you pick? Did you pick number 1? This is actually not good. This is a very big problem with TOEFL writing, and very similar to TOEFL writing. Some thesis statements says the assertion is too broad to make an effective thesis for a college paper. To develop the idea adequately, the writer would need to write a book. This is simply way too big, because how many countries are there in the world? And how many different plans do these countries have to eliminate air pollution? There's maybe perhaps thousands of different plans proposed by all of these different countries, so that's not going to work. This one, the second one, is actually very focused. Let's take a look at it closer. It says, so far research suggests that zero emissions vehicles, so you're talking about one specific thing, zero emissions vehicles are not a sensible solution to the problem of steadily rising air pollution. So this second thesis statement has a couple good things about it. First of all, it's very focused around zero emissions vehicles. Secondly, it has an argument in there, and it says it's not a sensible solution. So the writer can argue a very specific point in those 2 to 5 pages and now has to present some specific supporting detail to support that argument. Okay, let's go to number 3. First one, the Sex Pistols could not have succeeded without singer and lyricist Johnny Rotten, who provided the stage presence, poetry, and authentic working class rage that galvanized the young group's English audiences. That's the first one. Second one. The Sex Pistols were popular with young English audiences, and the singer and lyricist Johnny Rotten was very important to their success. So, what do you think? The first or the second one? Okay, let's take a look at the second one. What if you picked the second one? Okay, now don't get me wrong here. This is actually, let me clarify here. This is not a good thesis statement. However, it's better than no thesis statement at all. But the problem with this one is it says that Johnny Rotten was important to their success, but important, it's not very clear. It's difficult to arrange, for example, a shopping list of supporting points to help support important. So you can't create a nicely organized essay based on the word important. So that's not going to work very well. Now the first one is actually a very well written thesis statement. Now you'll notice the writer actually has what I call a list, a forecast of ideas. So it says that the Sex Pistols couldn't have succeeded without Johnny Rotten. He provided, number 1, stage presence, number 2, poetry, number 3, authentic working class rage. These are 3 different support points that the writer now has to mention to show how the stage presence, the poetry, and the working class rage, the purpose of those 3 ideas is to show how they were important in galvanizing the young group's English audiences. Galvanizing, a good vocabulary word there, to try to create an audience who is interested in his singing group. Again, so what can you learn from this? I think you want to make sure your thesis is very clear. It's not in any way unclear, and sometimes including like a list of ideas in the thesis, and that helps to organize the rest of the paper. Okay, here we go. Because it has become outdated, the Electoral College should be replaced by a system that allows the U.S. President to be elected by direct popular vote. That's the first one. Number 2. Rather than voting for a presidential candidate, voters in a U.S. presidential election merely choose their state's Electoral College representatives who actually vote for the president. In most cases, all of the electoral votes go to the candidate who wins the popular vote in that state, no matter how close the outcome. So what do you think? Is longer better than shorter? Is shorter better than longer? Which one is better? Now let's take a look. Now if you pick the second one, unfortunately you are incorrect. Let's pay attention to the verbs for a minute. Subject here, voters choose. Representatives who vote. The electoral votes go to the candidate who wins. And all of those verbs, they're just present tense verbs. They're not really arguing anything. I think this one merely states a fact. It is simply stating several facts about a presidential candidate and how the voters in the election go about choosing this presidential candidate, but there's no argument there. However, the first one, there's a definite argument here. The writer is not happy with the Electoral College. In fact, the writer says the Electoral College, notice the word should be replaced by a system that allows the U.S. president to be elected by direct popular vote. So do you see that? So in this first thesis statement, there's a definite argument in it. In the second thesis statement, it's merely stating a series of facts, and you can't build an essay around facts. Last but not least, let's take a look at the final thesis statement for the purpose of our discussion. The first one. This paper presents the results of my investigation into electronic surveillance in the workplace. Versus, though employers currently have a legal right to monitor workers' email and voicemail messages, this practice can have serious effects on employee morale. So what do you think? Number one or number two? If you pick number one, this is not going to work very well. As it says under the explanation, sorry, this version is too vague. Vague means not clear. To make a good thesis, a thesis should take a stand on a clearly focused issue. So it's not clear here. There's no argument. The paper presents results of my investigation into electronic surveillance workplace. This is really what a lot of TOEFL students do during the independent writing. They simply say, I will give reasons for my opinion. For example, let's say that you have the essay, do you agree or disagree with this statement? They'll say something like, I agree with this statement, and my paper will give reasons. But that doesn't give any specifics in the beginning. So it doesn't create a nicely organized essay. It's more difficult to create a coherent paper with a unfocused thesis statement. I'm telling you. So if you can follow the characteristics I'm trying to teach you here, I think you can dramatically increase the organization. You can increase the specific details you're including within your paper, and you can really impress the TOEFL IBT human raters if you follow these simple steps. So let's take a look at the other one. Okay, you have with the second one, says here, this version clearly asserts a central idea for the paper, and the other version, of course, is too vague. So, of course, you want to look at what is the central idea here. So it's saying, though employers currently have a legal right to monitor workers' email and voicemail messages, this practice can have serious effects on employee morale. So basically they're saying that it can affect the attitudes of the employees in the company if the employers, they monitor the workers' email and voicemail messages. They're saying that this is not a good thing. So the writer actually has to argue why it's not a good thing. The writer has to defend how it affects the attitudes of the employees in the company and why it's a bad thing to do this. So the writer has a very good thesis that sets up an argument that has to be defended in the essay itself. And there you have it. This is simply an analysis of some thesis statements. So just remember, when you're writing thesis statements for TOEFL IBT independent writing, or you're writing thesis statements for your college papers, make sure your thesis statement is not factual, it's arguable, it's sharply focused, and then it is not in any way unclear.